Well, hello there, everybody, and welcome back. Coming to you from Portrait Masters in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, and I have the honor of sitting with Annie Marie today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, it's I've been looking forward to this conversation with you. So like I said yesterday, we're going to talk about like 2 minutes about photography, and then we're just going to move on to vintage campers because that's really what we want to talk about here.
I'm happy to do so. We can talk about photographing vintage campers.
There you go. That would be right at my alley. And then 4 hours later,
Yes.
People would be falling asleep and like, are these guys going to change topics at all here? So to begin with, just tell everybody who you are, where you're at, what you photograph. Let's just start with just kind of a basic overview here.
Perfect. Well, as I said, I'm Annie Marie from Annie Marie Photography, and I started my business a little over 28 years ago, photographing families and children in Miami. And I concentrated on hand-colored black and white, and then sold my studio, moved up to Minnesota in 2001. And from there, I started concentrating on high school seniors, and, in the process went digital. And right now, my concentration is on high school seniors, fine art, women's portraits, and headshots. And I do sprinkling of families and babies and that type of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I don't know if you remember, well, I'm sure you do, but the first time that I was introduced to you and your style was through a TCPPA event back 125 years ago.
Oh, I remember that one, yeah.
That was out in Excelsior.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And you were photographing for that event. And I can remember specifically watching you work with children. And it's really cool to have this come full circle and be able to sit here and interview you today.
Yeah, it's amazing how a person's journey can evolve so much, because my photography now is so much different than it was then, because a person is constantly changing and their vision is constantly changing. And, when I first started, I kind of just photographed everything and just very traditional. And now I've just added this whole creative element in it. And I think I started doing more of the fine art because it just put a fire in my soul.
Right.
I needed something that recharged me and that I got super excited about. And the fine art photography and a little bit more creativity, that just does it for me. And so I've kind of added that into with my seniors and my families and, my women's portraits. And it's made all the difference for me to just not get bored with it and, not have it to be mundane, but to make it something that I look forward to every morning.
Right. And I think what's really cool about how you've adapted your business and your style and your studio is that you're taking this beautiful fine art approach and you're bringing it into your product line.
Absolutely.
It's not just being done specifically to feed your soul.
Right.
It is part of your business. It is part of your revenue stream, which I think sometimes there isn't that connection.
Yeah, and that's so important. I mean, I don't even feel like I work, and for me to be able to make a good living doing what I am so passionate about, I almost feel guilty. but it's so fun because not only am I producing a product for someone, in many ways, I change their lives, like when I work with these women, I've had so many just say that empowered them so much. And so, I mean, that in itself is probably worth more than the money I get for, the sale. And, with the high school seniors, they're in a tough place in their life.
Absolutely.
And, if you can give them a few good compliments and make them feel beautiful, that could change their life sometimes. So there's all these different elements of me doing my passion, making money on it, and, being able to affect people's lives in such a positive way that, I can do this forever until, I hit a wheelchair or something.
Yeah. Think about, what you just described, those 3 points and how that creates that strong triangle of, like you said, you almost feel guilty because you love what you do so much.
Yeah.
What an honor.
Absolutely. And, I just feel so blessed every day that I choose to do this, and it has just been something that's been so fulfilling. And I truly believe if someone has a passion for something and they go into it 110% and truly believe in their value, that, it's going to come back to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is how the universe works. What you put in is what you get
Absolutely.
back. A good friend of mine from Pennsylvania told me that many years ago. And I said to her, I was actually volunteering in this little town in Pennsylvania. And I said, I don't deserve what I'm getting back from this. And she said, Matt, that's not correct. You're getting back what you're putting in. And I said, no. I don't deserve what I'm getting back from this. She's like, no, you're not listening to me. She's like, you're getting back what you're putting into it. And that's amazing. You can tell when you look at your images and, we've talked briefly about this, but my Kelly saw your work in 2019 at a holiday party, and she still talks about that.
That's amazing. That like gives me chills to know that makes, that makes my heart really happy to hear that.
Yeah. And she talks about it in a way that she doesn't, background on me, I had a studio as a photographer for many years, and she's like, yeah, you're really good, but she just, she looks at you at a completely different point, of where what you're creating with your heart and your soul and your camera and how that's transferring is not a photograph. That is right. It is a piece of fine art that is hard to actually describe.
Yeah. Well, I know my dad was a photographer as I was growing up, and he like made photos with a camera. And the way I look at it is I create photos from my heart. And you can just see the difference in portraits created from the heart versus just snapping a photo of someone. It's just getting that authenticity. And that's what I strive for in my portraits, is getting to know that person and getting them vulnerable in front of my lens, and just hearing their stories and just kind of capturing that vulnerability. It's a little bit harder with certain genres like seniors and children. You just kind of capture them. Seniors, I can do some portraits where I kind of captured their soul, but like with older people and headshots and my women's portraits, that's really my strong goal. And I do a lot of men's portraits too. And, I think people come in for that. They come in to not get a picture, but to get a portrait of who they are from the inside out.
Right. Yeah. That's an awesome way to look at that. So how has being involved with the Portrait Masters and being a part of this organization impacted you, changed your style, propelled you into the world of fine art?
Yeah, actually, I probably would say that the Portrait Masters is the catalyst for me to do that, because before that, before I found Portrait Master, I had been in business over 20 years and doing the same thing day in, day out, loving what I did, but I wasn't feeling that inner connection with what I was doing. And I think through the Portrait Masters, because I had let go of my studio and I sold all of my strobes and all of my everything. And I was in a studio share, only doing natural light on location. And then I realized twofold that, one, I wanted to make more artistic images, and two, I wanted to produce images that the shoot and burners out there can't do.
Correct.
Yep. And I had never done any type of awards or accreditation or any kind of that type of thing. And so I thought, well, maybe I can start doing fine artwork and, try to get better through the awards circuit. And so I started with Portrait Masters. They started an awards and accreditation. I started with them, and then the local Twin Cities PPA. So I started with that, and I had pretty good luck from the get-go.
Pretty good luck? I would say that you probably had to add on to your house.
But that's what really lit the fire for me. And it wasn't about the award. It was about it making me want to be better every time, and wanting to create more artful images that spoke to people and told stories in that image. And that between the Portrait Masters and the high quality and level of the speakers here and the inspiration that I get from them, plus the awards and accreditation, that's what got that started. And once that fire was lit, no one's going to put that out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for for people who are listening along and trying to figure out how you got from A to where you're at now in your career after 28 years,
28, yeah.
and trying to visualize what that looks like for them.
Yeah.
You've gone through several transitions, a move across country, a start, an end, a complete restart, kind of an end, and then a reincarnation of the studio. So during that time, how did that feel? Like when you decided to move for whatever the reason was from Miami to Minnesota, did you come directly to Minnesota?
Yep.
Okay. I'm guessing that was for a career change or a family change.
Yep. I was from Minnesota and I was living in Miami, and after a divorce, I was going to bring my children back to Minnesota. So I sold my studio in Miami and like you said, just started over. And I'm the type of person that I don't have a lot of fear in those senses. Because I just do it. I just jump in with both feet, and I didn't even think twice about it. I never thought, oh, what if I fail? So I just did it, and I was able to grow it to a point where I was very self-sufficient, and then I went digital. And then I didn't trust film to digital for a long time. And then I thought, okay, now I have to buy a computer, to buy all new software. I have to learn how to use the software. I have to buy new cameras and new lenses and start all over and figure all this out, because I wasn't very technology. I'm very technology challenged when it comes to stuff like that. But that was the turning point with me saying, okay, now I can get more creative with my photos, learning how to add the artistic touches with it in Photoshop. That turned me into every step turned me into a different photographer.
So what year was it that you moved back?
I moved back in 2001.
Okay. So you hit it right kind of on the bleeding,
it was just starting at the end of Miami. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I waited a few years because it was 2004 that I decided to make the switch, and I was going to test it out, do half film, half digital. And after like the first 2 sessions, I'm like, I'm sold, so it went cold turkey and never looked back, because as an artist, there's no other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that major move for you and digital timed within a couple of years.
Yep.
So that was a complete reinvention.
Yep.
And then you went through a transition where you moved into a cooperative of photographers.
Yep.
Which, was it a pleasant experience?
It was, not really. I went, from my first studio in Minnesota, I moved into a bigger one and collected a lot of stuff. And I just didn't want to deal with the overhead. In the location I was at, the overhead was astronomical. And for a seasonal business, it just forced me to do like well over 250 seniors in a summer, to deal with, the quiet of the winter. And so I just didn't, and I was working, like I would go home and call till like 1 a.m. And if I didn't call through those 4 or 5 sessions I did that day, the next day I'd have like 8 or 10. And I was working weekends, and I'm like, I don't want this lifestyle. I was getting remarried and I just wanted a change. I said, I deserve something better. So I decided to let go of the overhead so that I could take on less seniors, or less clients, I should say, give them more attention.
Yeah.
Service them better, give them a better experience, and probably make as much or more money. So I went into a studio share situation with about 6 other young women, and it was in Northeast Minneapolis, which has a lot of character. The studio was beautiful, but getting myself and clients in and out of that area wasn't pleasant. I was up on 2nd floor and I couldn't leave my equipment there. So I had to like bring it all up and down the stairs, set it up, tear it down, all the props and everything. And I wasn't enjoying it. And some of the studio mates were ruining my expensive canvas backgrounds and stealing antique chairs. And so one day I was like, I'm done. I'm just done. I deserve more than that,
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so I have now moved into a studio apartment across the street from my home, which I call my Goldilocks because it's not big and it's not small, but it's all mine. And it's very convenient and it's just perfect. I just go in there and my soul feels just happy. I feel joy when I walk into the studio. And I hadn't had that before because it was just the overhead was hanging over my head or I was in that studio share and it wasn't my space. And, so this is my space and I love bringing clients in there and I feel like I can be more creative.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's amazing how when you can shed that stress, that overhead, that extra space, the clutter, the scheduling conflicts, the carrying stuff up the stairs, I can totally relate to that. It's just like you feel like a new person.
Yeah. It just that just kind of all blocks up your creativity and your joy, and you just cleanse that out. It's like when you clean your house, you just can just relax and
Right.
for a day or two,
Until you have a golden retriever, and then you can relax for
True.
about
Very good
15
point.
minutes. Yeah. So the area of the Twin Cities that you're in, Linden Hills, is a beautiful area.
As you know.
Yep, I do know. We're neighbors in there. How has that influenced your business of being, Edina adjacent and so close to Minneapolis and right by the lakes? And has that been a piece of the puzzle?
Huge piece of the puzzle because with my high school senior business, 90% of the seniors photograph outdoors. So I have tried to push most of my sessions into working around Linden Hills, Lake Harriet anyway, because of the variety I can offer them between, the little Linden Hills area with the alleyways and the beach and the flower gardens and the lake. Now I can just add studio to that. And so there's like 3 things that they can get out of one session. I feel proud to bring people to my studio. There's parking and it's easy for them to get to. There's cute little coffee shops they can go to. And I just feel like it's more my place that I can invite them into. I feel like I'm inviting them into my home.
Yeah.
But it's still a studio. And that's made all the difference to me,
For sure.
Yeah.
So the fine art style that you do so magically, is that an automatic piece of the puzzle with a high school senior session? Are you just doing that as something for your creativity, for your soul? You're seeing this work of art come together, or is this something that you are marketing to people and having them say, I want that look. I'm coming specifically to you because you are leading the area in that right now?
Yes and yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, I do have people that are seeing the fine art work, like specifically, let's say in the senior market. They see that and they want something different, and then just usually in addition to a session. So I do have it as an add-on to a regular session. So if a senior will have their regular session with all their fun little cute clothes running around outdoors like they love, and then we'll add on a fine art session. And sometimes I'll do it on the same day. Sometimes we'll do it on a separate day. Depends, because sometimes they don't take a long time, but there's a lot that goes into designing them. And I work with the parents and the kids and to try to style the session in a way that is going to match their home or the vibe of the senior, or maybe they're into cooking, or maybe they're into reading. And I want to incorporate some of that into sometimes they just say, you just do what you do. And that's fun too, because then I get to, so sometimes it's an add-on and, it's a paid thing. And otherwise I also, if I have a senior that I would love, that has a style I love, and I want to create a portrait that I have an idea in my mind, I will just call them back in the studio just as a guest and, give them a few digital files for their time. And they'll just, come in and I'll work with them with a couple styled looks. And I do that with my regular clients too, my regular fine art clients. And, some things are are hired, and we curate that idea together. And then sometimes I bring clients in for my personal. And I feel like to do my thing, I have to like invite them in, because then I can have the control over the styling and the theme I want, the story I want to tell.
Yeah. And again, that stress or push just falls off the shoulders when it's like, yep, I'm just going to do this because I love to do it. And this is what I see.
Yep. And sometimes I go in there with an idea of what I want, and I have all the props and the outfits and everything. And then we just kind of start just kind of playing around, and I'll go into my style closet and we'll grab something else. Sometimes what I come out with wasn't even what I went in for, and it turns out even better. So I've done that a few times. So, and that's fun too, just allowing myself to, and usually I get people in that are willing to just kind of play and create. And sometimes together we come up with ideas just on the spot, and that's really fun for them too.
Yeah. Just completely spontaneous.
Yeah. And oftentimes from those sessions, I give them, 3 to 6 digital files, but oftentimes they'll purchase, I offer them 20% discount if they want to purchase any wall art or albums or anything. And oftentimes they'll purchase it too, know. So that's another benefit too.
Definitely. So are you doing all your own styling, hair, makeup, everything? Or are you bringing in?
I do all my own styling. I don't normally do hair and makeup for styled sessions, just because everything's, we kind of fly by the seat of our pants, and I can do enough hair and makeup that I can do that, or I have the client come in with a certain look. I do hair and makeup for senior sessions and my women's portraits, but I do have a makeup artist come in for that. But for the fine art sessions, I do all the styling, and that's like, I'm obsessed with that. That is so fun. And I'm constantly in Goodwill and online and thrift stores, finding stuff. And so that's a never ending thing too. So
absolutely. And I used to be an avid collector of most everything until I had to move.
Right. It's like, okay, out.
Yeah. And I even went from small to bigger, and it still managed to fill all the way up. So now I'm a little bit more particular. So speaking of that, you and I share a very common love for several things. So let's talk about your cool truck.
Yeah, my cool truck. Oh my gosh, I love my truck.
So that's a what year? 50?
That's I have a 1950 Chevy pickup.
Cool.
450 engine. Has a really cool sound to it.
I bet.
Yep. And I actually got it because I didn't have a studio anymore, and I thought I wanted some kind of mobile, something that I could move around in and advertise my business, as I'm going to sessions at the Arboretum or around the lake. And so I was going to get it and paint it my branding colors, but it actually came this cool blue color, which is in my branding. So I just left it and put my logo on the side of it. And in the summer, it parks in front of my place in Linden Hills, and it happens to be quite a busy street that a lot of people that go to walk around the lake. And so I will get a lot of, see people taking pictures of it, and
that's awesome.
Calls with, hey, I saw your cool truck, I need a photo session. And it's always there for my clients to use. Like I have done a couple seniors this summer that have requested I call it my Johnny truck. Yeah, so I love that thing. And, it's kind of a Franken truck. It's been a process to get it, kind of fixed up. It came pretty well fixed up, but it's definitely needed a lot of tweaking, but it's so fun to drive. It is. Yeah. I get in that thing and got the hair blown in the wind, and I'm a different human. I'm kind of a boho hippie anyway, but man, that thing is fun.
Yeah, it's totally cool. And the images that you showed me of the high school senior girl that you photographed, it's so fun that you, again, are combining something that feeds your soul. And, these seniors are absolutely loving it. Yeah. And you get to use it for part of your job. And
advertising, sitting out on the street. It's like my little billboard.
Right. and there's no computer on it.
Nothing. It's no.
Little spark and a little gas, and it'll run. And
it is. It feels like I'm out in the country, just rustic, but it's perfect. I love it.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So then, is the plan eventually to take the camper when it's all done and tow it with the truck?
No, I don't know if I trust the truck to pull the camper. That'll be two separate fun things I do. So when we park the truck in the winter to winterize it, that's probably when we'll pull out the camper
Okay.
to go travel.
Nice.
But yeah, so now last year I bought a 1950. That must be the year I love. Vintage Vagabond camper.
are
It's
so
a
cool.
19-footer. And with the idea to just renovate it. And so it's parked about 3 hours from our home up at a cabin up in near Brainerd. And so unfortunately, I only get to work on it, a few days at a time when we get up there in the summer. But I figured it was probably about a 3-year process anyway. And so now this summer I was able to literally screw by screw, nail by nail, I pulled out everything in the inside piece by piece because I'm using all the pieces as templates.
Yep.
Because there was a lot of water damage, so everything's going to have to be replaced with new paneling and new wood and new counters and everything. So I took everything out piece by piece, keeping it all as a template, and then the last couple months I've been stripping it of I think 4 coats of paint.
Oh my.
And so finally got that all stripped and all the windows out and stripped, and so now our next step is to, take it off the base and get the axle and the base right. And then probably next summer we'll start putting it back together. But, that's just the first part of our journey. And to me, that's exciting. I've always done my own home renovations and stuff. That's just how I grew up. So doing this camper is just so fun. And obviously I can't wait to get to the end part where I get to decorate it and stuff. But just the thought of, starting that list of, where we want to go, and hopefully with both of our jobs being more summer jobs, maybe in the winter we can get away for 3-4 weeks and just travel. 'Cause I'm a huge traveler. I love just going and, just adventures and stuff. So that'll be fun.
There's nothing better. We camp now, and you open the door in the morning, it's that nice, crisp, cool air.
Well, we do tent camping, so we always have cool, crisp air. Yeah. Yeah. So we're
sometimes more crisp than you'd care to have it.
Yes, I am a tent camper. So we're actually kind of sad we're going to have to give up the tent, but at our age, I think we deserve a bed and a roof.
The first time that we went camping, we went tent camping. And after the weekend was over, I said, that's all great, but I'm not doing it again. So if you want me to go, we're going to have a camper.
Yeah.
There's none of this tent stuff anymore.
Yeah.
And for everybody listening, if you want to be addicted to something, start looking at vintage campers. Trust me.
100% trust. Yeah.
Because they are amazing, and just the lifestyle that comes with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just so much character that comes with them. Anyone can go out and buy, I don't even know, a fancy Winnebago or whatever, but just the character that comes with one of those. And if you can just fix it up a little bit and just make it yours, and I don't know, it's just nothing like it.
Right.
Yeah.
And to kind of tie this all back together here, and to bring it full circle back, with kind of ending where we started. Mm-hmm. I think that if I'm looking at you as an artist and you as a photographer, and I haven't known you for a really, really long time, but I've known of you and your, how you have presented yourself to the market, because we're in the same market, for the last 20 years. You are very vested into your creativity, what feeds you as an artist, and you haven't pushed in a direction that doesn't do that for you.
Correct. Yeah.
And I think the same goes with your fun truck, the fun camper. You're digging in, you're doing it yourself, you're using your creativity. It feeds your heart, it feeds your soul. You're not having to set the alarm and going, oh, I don't want to get up and do this today.
Yeah.
Which is evident in your work, in how you create, and how your mind works with your skill, with your creativity, with your art, and how that's transferred into your clients. And that's very commendable, to be able to take what you do and make people's lives better.
Yeah. And I wish I would have known the power of that when I first started out. But, when I first started out, there wasn't the education that there is today. There was no internet, and so I just had to learn the hard way. And so the steps I had to take to get to where people can get to so much quickly took years and years.
Yep.
And I never had gotten advice from anybody, and I never had someone mentor me. And so I kind of learned it all on my own, which I don't mind, because, sometimes we learn by stumbling and scratching our way to the, up. But I wish someone would have told me, just follow your heart, follow your soul, don't be afraid to say no, do what you value, and the people will come that value that same thing.
Right. Definitely. So you're definitely defining, whether you did it intentionally or not, you're defining your client.
Right. Absolutely.
And you're going with that client. And if somebody wants to come and do that with you, that's fantastic.
Yep.
But if not, that's fine too.
Perfect. Yes. And that's goes to say, like, when I was out in Excelsior with my big studio, people would just call me because I was a photographer, not because I was Annie Marie or what I did, but because I was the photographer in town. And so when I left that and raised my prices significantly, now the people that call me because of what I do and who I am.
Right.
And they value my work. And so that to me has so much value, because I know I'm working with people that want an Annie Marie photo. They don't just want a photographer.
Right.
And there's a huge difference to that.
Absolutely. You were talking about apples versus a Volkswagen there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's good to be in a place in my career like that. And, everyone has to start out somewhere, but the sooner people can realize that and realize their value and to put their path into what that value is, and if it doesn't align with that, to just say no. And people I think are afraid to say no because they're like, oh, well, I need the money, or I need this, or I need that. But like we said in the very beginning, if you believe in it and if you value it, it'll just build itself.
Right.
Yeah.
I 100,000% believe that.
Yeah.
So if people want to find you and be able to see your work, what is your Instagram? What is your website?
Okay,
all
I've
that
got a long list. Are you ready?
Yep, go for it.
Okay, so website is anniemariephotography.com, and I have all my genres on there up in tabs on the top, so people can easily kind of go from genre to genre and see my fine art and my seniors and whatnot. As far as Instagram, I have two. I have annie.marie.photography, and that's where I post most of my client work and my fine artwork. And then I have Annie Marie Seniors, which is more of a lighthearted, fun senior work. I speak to those two audiences different, so I have that different. And then I also do mentoring and template and logo design for photographers, and that is anniemarieco.com.
Cool.
And so I was a graphic designer before I was a photographer, so I still love like designing logos and helping studios with branding and marketing templates. And now I host a Lux Portrait workshop. So that information is in there. And that's where people can find me.
All the things.
All the things.
Awesome.
All the fun things.
This has been fantastic.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me and for the chat.
For sure. And then we'll have to get together and have a delicious glass of wine.
Absolutely.
With Tilia sometime.
And I'll photograph Kelly.
There you go. Well, thanks so much for being with us. I know people are going to enjoy this immensely.
Well, I hope so. Thank you again.
You bet.